You got it, you got it, you just don't know you got it. You got it all inside of you. It's inside, you got it. Let me help you to spot it. You've got it all inside of you. This world can be a prison, a play yard. Peace of mind's inside and ain't far above the clouds, so prepare to take off as we come together off the radar, far away from everything. Let's release the stress and strain. No need for the baggage bay, cause we came here to heal that pain. Before the ways of the world blind you, allow me to take time to find you. In the same place that your hurt resides, you can find heaven and healing right inside you. And if you need help, let me guide you past the lies that you're aligned to, till you're redesigned to find truth in the beauty I see inside you. This world can be your prison, a play yard. Peace of mind's inside and ain't far above the clouds, so prepare to take off as we come together off the radar, far away from everything. Let's release the stress and strain. No need for the baggage bay, cause we came here to heal that pain. The lighthouse, guiding the righteous is all that I'm about. And now I'll be doing it till my light's out and my time's out. I'm only passing on lessons that I received from those steering me in the right route. They always said I was fly, but that I had to believe in my wings to touch the skies. Have the guts to try, possess a lust for life, required for me to do more than just get by. And now I see you in the distance, amongst the misfits, in the midst that clouds your vision of all the gifts that God gave you when He made you, along with the stars, moons, the planets, and sun rays that raised you. So through the fog of all mediocrity, I'm shining this little light for all to see. You already possess your own fresh, but if you have trouble finding it, just call on me. This world can be a prison, a play yard. Peace of mind's inside and ain't far above the clouds, so prepare to take off as we come together off the radar, far away from everything. Let's release the stress and strain. No need for the baggage bay, cause we came here to heal that pain. This world can be your prison, a play yard. Peace of mind's inside and ain't far above the clouds, so prepare to take off as we come together off the radar, far away from everything. Let's release the stress and strain. No need for the baggage bay, cause we came here to heal that pain.
Yes, sir. 4 minutes.
I want to talk to you today from the subject, how to be crazy enough to get what you want. What you have to do is lose your no I can mind and find your yes I can mind. So you see, you got to lose one of these minds. And which one of these minds is it that you have to lose to get what you want? The no I can't mind.
Staring at your greatness, feeling ill-prepared, just a little crazy, just a little scared, leaning on a logic, keeping you from your cares, just a little crazy, just a little scared, that normalcy that nags you to stay and never dare to move beyond the box that the devil has prepared. Your friends and your folks were raised and played there, so it's all they ever known and all they have to share. Few to try to push you, many to keep you there. Just a little crazy, just a little scared. Chances of choice and curses live in your cares. Just a little crazy, just a little scared. A state of stagnation with no flash or flare. Days are all the same with no glow or glare. The sickness that secures you when fears are all shared. Where very few are crazy and many are just scared. The status quo's tragic but lingers in the air, blocking the blessings that await you upstairs. There's only one way that you can go from here. Just a little crazy, just a little scared. To the promise that the process breeds if you can bear to give chase. It awaits all who dare to run it down and grab it regardless of the fears. Blessing those crazy enough to do it scared. So I'll fight on until I right all wrongs from the day
2 minutes and count.
Night lights on, I'ma take flight cause it's the right time for me to write and enlighten the minds I've spawned. To show up, grow up, and glow up. Rearrange reality and sicken my enemies till they throw up. Trapped in their own minds while I glow up. Putting it down for mines till I go up above past failures, ignoring all fears, cause that false evidence ain't as real as it appears. When you drown out doubt and blood, sweat, and tears, and focus on your goal, the way will be made clear. So visualize all the victories that you wanna see, and what your mind projects is what you're gonna see. On the screen displaying your lifetime, you'll find that it projects what originates in the mind.
This used to be a movie house. Way back up there somewhere is a projector. They never took the projector out. Up here is a big screen that we've used 2 or 3 times. What you see on that screen does not originate on that screen. What you see on the screen originates where? In the projector. So you see, what you are experiencing on the screen of your life does not originate on the screen. If you don't like what's on the screen, it doesn't do any good to get mad with the screen. See, if you see something on that screen that you don't like, you can go up there with a knife and just cut it to pieces. But what would happen? It would reflect on the back wall. If you want to change what is on the screen of experience, you have to go up to the projector of mind. What I see with my inner eye has power
All right.
to
30 seconds and counting,
and
y'all.
replace that which is in my outer world.
Copy. Hey, happy Easter, happy Resurrection Day to you. Yes, stay stopped. That's right. That's right. We'll be talking about that a little bit too. So, and for those that may have trouble staying stopped. All right. I do still drink coffee, y'all. Sorry. Although at one point I was drinking too much, but maybe I'll talk about that as well. All right.
I don't smoke weed and I don't drink anymore. I don't.
Hold on, muted my mic. All right. I'm on point now. All right. So to my Facebook family, welcome. How you doing? Much love to you. Happy Easter, happy Resurrection Day for all my Christian folks out there. Happy New Day for everybody that woke up, because every day we wake up, God gives us, resurrects us to get another 24 hours, another shot at it. So we want to be thankful for that as well. For all those on IG, much love to you. You guys know I'll be sharing my screen and whatnot on YouTube. So if you do want to see what I'm sharing, although I'll be talking my way through it, you can sit there on IG or you can go to YouTube. The link is in the bio and you can check out today's broadcast. So I hope everybody's having a good day. I hope that if you aren't having a good day, I hope it gets better. All right. So today, just to kind of get into it, I'll probably be a little shorter today, because I know people, a lot of people are out, celebrating the day with their families and whatnot. So today we're going to be talking about, and in the spirit of, hey, 3 months, good to hear. What does I say? Fear none, 84. That's what I'm talking about. Happy 90 days. Way to wake up another day sober. And so today, in the spirit of Easter, in the spirit of resurrection and, reviving ourselves and whatnot, I figured today, what better day than today to talk about when we are, for those that are in situations where maybe you have relapsed. And this could be relapsing in anything, whether you're going back, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's a toxic relationship you tried to run back to, right? Or procrastination. Maybe it's something that you're trying to stop doing and you slipped up, right? And you're trying to go back and get that virtue that you left behind, right? And in my case, it was my sobriety, because you remember, you got to understand, God sends us to earth sober, regardless of what anybody says. We're sober, we're not fallible, right? Then we enter the world and things change, right? We relinquish a lot of the gifts that we are blessed with. And so it's important for us to think about, especially when we think about, and today I'll be referring to, of course, the resurrection story with Jesus and the story of the prodigal son, which is really kind of does tie into sobriety. And so I'm going to talk about that as well, and how both of these stories deal with, regaining something that we lost that we should have back in our lives, right? That really never left us, but we left it, right? And also a solution for moving on. So when you do relapse, how can you resurrect your sobriety? How can you redeem your sobriety and take back that power that you had in sobriety that you let go? Right. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we'll be informed by the resurrection story and the prodigal son. One thing. So firstly, when we look at, we just want to make sure, so that one thing I'm real big on is understanding the meanings of words, not assuming that everybody knows what certain words mean. So if you do know, and it seems like I'm insulting your intelligence, it's not that. As a teacher, it's my job. I always speak to the person that is furthest back in the classroom, the one that knows the least. And I assume that I put everybody there, and then I work my way up, right? So that we don't lose anybody. So first, we're going to talk about just some quick definitions. What resurrect means, redemption, right? I've talked about what relapse means. That's when you, in sobriety circles, when you end up using again or drinking again, right? And you break your sobriety. All right. So when we talk about resurrecting something, right? You're resurrecting, what you are doing is you're reviving a practice, a use, or a memory of something. You're bringing new vigor to it. Now, that last part, bringing new vigor, is something that we have to remember in order to attain and sustain and maintain whatever it is we get back, right? If we were doing the same things that we did when we lost it, with no new vigor, no new plan, no new goal, then our chances of losing it again are fairly high. So I want you to keep that in mind, all right, when we talk about resurrection, right? And when we talk about redemption, we talk about, to get or to win back something, to release from blame or debt, right? To free from captivity by payment of. So with regards to the resurrection story, in that story, Jesus pays the debt for all the sins of man, right? With his life, right? And so there was a debt that had to be paid in order to redeem it. It didn't just come out of nowhere, right? Like your sobriety doesn't just come out of nowhere. Now, it was given to you when you got here, but once you lost it, in order to gain it back, there's a debt that needs to be paid. We've talked about this multiple times, and I always make sure to remind you, because you guys know, those who have been tuning into me, being mindful is one of the most important things that you have to be in order to maintain sustained sobriety. It's being mindful. All right. Mindful of the fact that you have it, and appreciative, mindful of the fact that you can very easily lose it, right? Being mindful. All right. So that's redemption. So when we also are thinking about, and of course, in the resurrection story, right, I'm going to put up a quick summary of it real quick. Let me share this. Give me one sec, y'all. All right. Let me go to where it is. There we go. All right. Share this tab instead. And let me make myself smaller so you guys can read this. All right. So with regards to the quick just a synopsis, a summary of the resurrection story. It says here, what is the Easter story, a resurrection story, right? The Easter story recounts Jesus' resurrection 3 days after his crucifixion. It says, the Bible states how Jesus made a triumphal entry into Jerusalem. Shortly after, his apostle, Judas, agreed to betray Jesus and deliver him to the chief priests for 30 silver pieces. After attending the Last Supper with his apostles and visiting the Garden of Gethsemane to pray to God, Jesus was delivered to Pontius Pilate and sentenced to death. Jesus took his final steps walking through a crowd of angry people while carrying a cross. He was crucified, and with his last breath, he committed himself to his Father's hands. Shortly after, Jesus' body was returned to his followers, and he was buried in a tomb. However, on the following Sunday, Jesus' followers went to his tomb to find it open. Jesus' body was not inside. They knew Jesus had risen, all right? So he had resurrected himself after paying the price for us, right? So when we look at this story, there's some, when you're looking at it through the lens of sobriety, which I look at everything through the lens of sobriety, right? There are a few interesting things when you think about, for those who have walked in sobriety, and this is for also to be considered for people who are considering it or who have relapsed, right? So it talks about him Jesus making a triumphal entry into Jerusalem, right? So you've gained this sobriety, you're making this triumphant entry into the world, right? In your best form, your sober form, right? Shortly after, his apostles agreed to betray one of his apostles, Judas. And for many of us, when it comes to our sobriety, I spoke last week in the broadcast on thoughts. I talked about thoughts, from my lens being those people who try to undermine or cause you to betray your sobriety. So many of us have, you especially when you start off, or if you've relapsed, you want to look and see, do you have any Judases laying around, right? Do you have any people who led you astray? Now, mind you, you made the choice to be led astray, so you can't blame the other person, but you do have to look at that and say, okay, what around me? Okay, I relapsed. What or who around me might have aided in my falling from grace, right? Because many of us have those Judases. I know I had relapsed 3 or 4 times before this, my current stint of 11 years plus in sobriety. And I had to cut those people off. I had to get rid of the Judases in my life, right? So when you look at that and you look at this story, there are a lot of parallels that can be made. Then it says, Jesus was delivered to Pontius Pilate and sentenced to death, right? And when you kill off your sobriety, right, what you have to understand is, just like with Jesus, death doesn't mean the end when it comes to your sobriety. In my book, Sobriety in Black, Confessions of a Retired Alcoholic, I talk about the superpowers of sobriety. And the most important one I talk about is the superpower of redemption or resurrection, and the fact that you can always, no matter how many times you slip, you always have access to redeem your sobriety, right? Just as in the Christian faith, it says that you always have access to God's forgiveness and his love and to be saved, right? You always have access to it. You have to make the choice to accept it, right? Same with your sobriety. You have to make a choice, an actual physical choice. It doesn't just come to you. You have to do something to get it. That is the price you pay, right? And so now when you do relapse, there is sort of a death of your streak. There's a death of your power to maintain your sobriety. It kind of wavered, right? But in the end, you can redeem that. You can resurrect that. You have the power. God has given you the power to do that, right? He sent you here sober. Remember that. So you're just going to get back a gift that he gave you that you set down. And that's what you have to remember and be mindful of. It's like, look, you're not becoming sober. You're really going back to being sober, right? Now, is it easy? There's going to be some adjustments, especially if you spent a long time in addiction, especially if you're around a bunch of Judases. You know what I'm saying? The more I drank, the more, potential Judases I were around, because many were all alcoholics, right? Not all, but many. And so they wanted me to stay a part of that group. I talk about social identity and how my social identity evolved, You know, in my book, I tell my story. My social identity evolved into being an alcoholic, and I took pride in that at one point. And I talk about that process, how you go from feeling shameful because you're an addict or you're a junkie or you're a alcoholic, and then you turn it around into something to be proud of. I mean, like I said, now you look now, you got a lot of rappers that are talking about how they're proud of being junkies, right? So this is all the process. I call it the drinking jacket. You put it on, and you know, a lot of times it can be hard to take off, but there is a process you can go through, and it is doable, right? And that's the process that you go through in order to redeem your sobriety. All right. Now, when we look at another story here, the story of the prodigal son. One thing that's interesting with the story of the prodigal son is, I'm going to be honest, I always assumed I knew what the word prodigal meant. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. But for some reason, I thought maybe prodigal son meant the son that returns, something like that. But the actual meaning, okay, first I'll just read this short summary of the prodigal son. So the prodigal son, it says, the plot centers around the younger son. Hold on, let me get rid of these. These banners are kind of, sorry guys. It may be easier for us to stay focused here. Boom. Okay, there we go. All right. The plot centers around the younger son who impatient and greedy asks his father for his inheritance. The father agrees, but the son soon wastes his money, eventually becoming homeless and destitute. In the end, to the son's great surprise, he is welcomed back into the family by his father and brother. All right. So basically, you know, he ain't got no money because he's being prodigal, which we're going to get into the meaning of the word, actual meaning of the word prodigal. And so he asked his father, hey, man, can I get, you know, a payday loan? Can you go ahead and give me my inheritance now? Because I need some bread. He's being greedy, you know. Father says, all right, fine. Gives him the money, goes off, wastes all his money, you know, doing whatever it is he was doing until he ended up back broke and destitute again, had to come back home. And to his surprise, when he comes back home, his father forgives him, welcomes him back to it, and his brother welcomes him back into the family. Excuse me. Okay. One thing when we look at, let me go ahead and where's that? Hold on, y'all. Sorry. I'm trying to find, oh, there we go. No, not that one. This one. Okay, perfect. When we go into what the word prodigal actually means, all right, maybe I'm the only one that didn't know this, but just to, like I said, want to make sure we keep all the words straight here. It actually means spending money or resources freely and recklessly, wastefully extravagant, okay? And we can do this with our sobriety. Give you a perfect example of how you can do this on sobriety. Let's say today you decide you stop drinking. 3 days from now, there's a party where you know there's going to be a lot of drinking. You've been in the house all day for the 3 days. Your sobriety hasn't been challenged, right? You've essentially locked yourself in the house for 3 days. And you think, oh, well, I got my sobriety in order. I'm good. I'm going to go to this club where I used to drink every day. All of my friends used to drink with me. There's going to be drink, smoke, drugs everywhere. I'm going to walk into this and I'll be good. What you're doing there is you're spending your sobriety wastefully. You haven't made any major changes. You've gotten sober, but you haven't recovered. And we've talked about the difference between sobriety and recovery. Sobriety is mechanically not drinking. That has nothing to do, recovery is dealing with what brought you to drink. The inner, the inner happenings within you that bring you to succumb to these cravings. If you drink because you run away from problems, when it's time to run away from problems again, and if you're just sober, there's a high possibility or probability that you're going to end up drinking again because you haven't built up any new coping mechanisms to replace alcohol. So you spend your sobriety because you're not being mindful. You're new in it. You haven't really started a process of recovery. And when you do this, just like with the son here, He was greedy and wasteful before he got the money from his father. That's why he ended up broke. He did not solve that issue before getting the inheritance from his father, right? So once he got the money, he did the same thing he was doing when he had 2 pennies. He had 2 pennies. He'd spend that in 2 seconds, give him $1 million. It'd just take him about 4 more extra seconds to spend $1 million. But he was going to do that because he had not solved that issue, right, of being prodigal within him. So we don't want to practice prodigal sobriety, where we're not gaining resources. We don't have enough time. We haven't connected with others, right? And so we haven't gotten the tools together to maintain our sobriety or to increase our chances of staying, sustained in our sobriety, right? So both of these stories, when you think about them through the lens of your sobriety and recovery, they can teach us a lot. They can really give us, some things to focus on. So with regards to the resurrection story, right, we can focus on eliminating Judases from our lives, working on ourselves, giving ourselves to God, Allah, whatever you pray to, right? Connecting with others, right? Not losing faith in the opportunity, the possibilities of sobriety and what it can bring to you, right? And so there are a few things. And then with the prodigal son story, we can look at the fact that, yes, if you slip, if you relapse, may not be a great thing, but you are still afforded the opportunity to redeem yourself. You still are afforded the opportunity to resurrect your sobriety. God gave you that. All right. You are afforded it. That's one of the superpowers of sobriety that never goes away, is the superpower of redeeming your sobriety. So you want to keep that in mind. And with that being said, let me look. Hold on. Hey, well, thank you, Michael. Okay, I see a comment here. He said, thanks for being out there. Hey, I'm just, showing up for those that, that showed up for me. One of the videos actually, and I appreciate the comment, one of the videos that I released this week was of an interview from Pharrell, the producer Pharrell, and he was talking about, he wasn't necessarily talking about sobriety, but it really spoke to me because he was talking about, hey, I've got all this fortune and fame and, all of these things I wanted in my life. Why did I get it? Why me? And he said, he realized that, he gets these things and other people get what they have because they give it away. They give other people the codes. They give other people a means to attain it. And because they don't hold it in for themselves and they give it away, they get more back, right? And so that's kind of what, even with me in telling people, well, look, this is how I recover loudly, right? This is what I've learned. It may not help you, it may help you, but I'm giving it to you with the intent that hopefully it can help you. And in doing that, it actually strengthens my sobriety. It strengthens my accountability. I got more people looking at me going, hey, if I were to slip, people will go, okay, so a few Sundays went by, we ain't heard from him. What's going on, right? Or, there'd be, the amount of disappointment, all of these things that come back. And that's because I recover loudly. I pass on what I've learned. I'm not some super genius. I haven't got all the answers, but the codes or the answers that I do have, I'm going to share with others that are struggling in the same way I struggle, right? And you can do the same, right? And there's a process like what I'm going to talk about now for those who have relapsed or those who maybe you haven't put together a relapse prevention process, right? But a means of saying, okay, if I do and I need to resurrect my sobriety, redeem my sobriety, what is a process? What are some things that I can consider? And I've talked about this many times before. I'm going to talk about it again because it's important. Period. All right. So I have one quick sentence that kind of explains kind of a process of that. It's something to think about if you relapse or if you fall. And this is for anything, whether you're dieting, whether you're trying to quit drugs, whether you're trying to learn a new skill and maybe you fell off. Right. This is a quick sentence here. It says, forgive yourself, get over yourself, get into yourself, and get on with yourself. Okay? Forgive yourself, get over yourself, get into yourself, and get on with yourself. All right? What do I mean by that? Well, we're going to break each one of these down. First, you got to forgive yourself. Okay, you slipped. You don't want to slip again. It sucked. You binged. Maybe you were 2 years sober or 2 days sober or 5 seconds, or you tried to quit yesterday and you went out yesterday night and you slipped. Okay. What's the first thing you need to do? Well, the first thing you need to do is to forgive yourself. Okay. You need to forgive yourself. Okay, I made that mistake. I'm not going to beat myself up over the head. I'm going to make peace. Like it says here, make peace with the truth about yourself. I'm going to examine why I relapsed, right? I'm going to take responsibility for it, and I'm going to let go of guilt and shame, and I'm going to focus on success. I'm going to focus on sobriety. Focusing on guilt's not going to help you. Focusing on shaming yourself for slipping, for something that happened. Like they say, don't trip on things that are behind you. None of that's the guilt, shame. It's not going to help you, right? You want to be motivated to move on. You want to be motivated to say, okay, what can I learn from this, and turn the bad news of a relapse into the good news, right? A lot of people call the Bible the good news, right? You can turn bad news into good news. How do you do that? You learn from it. That's how you make peace with your relapse. You sit with your relapse. You learn what happened, what was going on, what was going through my mind, what questions weren't answered, where was I confused? What could I have done differently? You examine it. Then you're at peace with the relapse. It becomes your friend, because now it's kind of like that friend that tries to give you advice that you really don't want to hear, right? And sometimes, there are times where that's happened to me. It still happens to me to this day. I get a little sensitive. Somebody say, like, matter of fact, perfect example. Last week, I did my broadcast and somebody put up a comment and he said, because I'll talk a lot. He says, you want to make things shorter because people have short attention spans. And literally during the broadcast, I read it and I think I cussed. I was like, man, whatever. F you. You don't want, I got short. I make shorts. You can, on my channel, you can watch the shorts for that. This is for my long form content. And and when I looked back at it, I was being kind of insecure about it. Like I didn't want to hear it, right? Instead of going, maybe he has a point. Maybe I do need to shorten things up and get to the point. And I know he does, because I've had that issue before, right? So I have to, just like with the relapse, sit with it. A lot of times we run from it. So part of forgiving yourself isn't going act like it didn't happen, but it's making peace with the truth, sitting with it, examining it, learning from it, all right? Accepting responsibility. Yes, this happened. Yes, it is my fault. There are things that I allowed to, that may have allowed me to make the choice to relapse, but it is my fault. I ultimately messed up, right? And letting go of guilt and shame. So that's how you forgive yourself. Okay. Then the next one is get over yourself. And this verse here, which I've written, in my book, I have a prayer that's like, basically it's just 4 or 5 passages in a row from the Bible that kind of give it a prayer. And the first one, in the first passage, it's 1 Peter 5:8-9. But here in 5:9, it says, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world, right? Remembering that your relapse is not anything special. Other people have relapsed and other people have survived from relapse. Other people have relapsed. I've relapsed 3 or 4 times and now I'm, 11 plus years sober. So, it's not to say that you've got some unique problem that nobody has the answer to. Get over yourself. The fact of the matter is, not everybody, but many people have relapsed, and the answers, things that can help you, are out there. So you're not going to be able to just run from it by saying, I've got this unique problem that's never happened on planet Earth, so I guess I'm just going to rest comfortably in my alcoholism because it's hopeless. No, it isn't. Now, you've got to do the work. You can't be lazy. You've got to be open-minded. You're going to have to do something different, obviously, right? You're going to have to adjust some things, but these same afflictions have been accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. If anything, you need to connect with those individuals, right? So you need to get over yourself. And how do you get over yourself? Like it says here, connect with other people that have been going through the same struggles. That's why I do what I do, right? Connect with other people, gain new insight, create a recovery plan, go to an AA meeting, NA meeting. Now you can go online and you can find meetings everywhere, whether they're virtual, whether they're in person. They're all anonymous. They're all confidential. All right. So you can rest assured in that. If you come and see me, I'm a recovery coach. So I do consultations, right? I do paid consultations. If you want to talk to me, I sign NDAs all the time. So everything you speak to me about as a recovery coach is protected. Your confidentiality is protected, right? So you can be comfortable in connecting with other people, getting over yourself by expanding your network of people that are working in sobriety, right? Gaining new insight, creating a plan, because a lot of times you relapse because you don't have a plan. You didn't plan for, okay, what if I run into this person who's my best friend I've been drinking with for 10, 15 years, and the first thing he wants to do is pour up. What am I going to actually say to that person? Do I need to even go see that person? If they're unavoidable, okay, how am I going to respond? Like they say, you want to mentally respond instead of emotionally react. The difference between a reaction and a response is planned. A reaction comes out of nowhere. And your cravings are a reaction to the stimuli around you. So responses are when you go, okay, when the cravings come, how am I going to respond to them? I'm not going to react to them, because the reaction is going to be grab a drink, right? I'm stressed. Reaction, grab a drink. I'm stressed. My response is going to be, let me call somebody and say, hey, I'm really stressed out and I feel like drinking. What should I do? I've had that where people have called me 2, 3 in the morning. Man, my girl just left me right now, and I'm 90 days and I don't know what to do, so I just called you. Perfect. That's a response versus, normally, bump this. I'm going to get a drink. I've been through enough today. Right? And so that's what you have to do. All right. And that's what you want to think about. Now, getting into yourself. Just like I've spoken about before, yes, you do, as you gain your sobriety, giving the codes out to other people is a part of things, and it is a great and noble thing to do. But when you first, especially if you're relapsing and you're starting out in your sobriety, focus on yourself. Put your life vest on first before you run around here. Remember, we got the resurrection story. That's about Jesus. You ain't Jesus, okay? No savior. This ain't the time for a savior complex where you run out here trying to rid the world of alcohol and you got 24 hours of sobriety. A lot of times people make that mistake, right? They make that mistake. They're trying to save everybody else. No, you need to get into yourself. Like my saying, I have a saying that says, don't worry about plan A or plan B. Worry about plan U, okay? Plan U. What is plan U, okay? Y-O-U. Not plan A, plan B, C, D, E, F, G, and all that. Plan U. What is your plan for your sobriety? And I always say, I dare to say it, selfish sobriety. Damn right. Worry about yourself being sober. Don't try to save your best friend, your homeboy, your son, your mama, your daddy, your drunk cousin. Hey, you can be concerned. That's great. But until you get a hold of this thing, you got to take care of yourself. Okay? I've done that review of, Martin Luther King, his quote about the 3 dimensions of life. The first is the length of life. You've got to walk your own road, right? Then we talk about the depth of life. That's where you connect with other people and help them out. And then the height of life, your upper reach towards God. But first, it's the length of life, learning to walk your journey in sobriety, focusing on yourself, focusing on the solutions that are going to help you. All right. Avoiding the savior complex and really getting into yourself. Okay. Like I say, avoiding the savior complex of trying to save the world. Okay. When it says there, it says SWOT yourself. One analysis you can do is a SWOT analysis, and it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Identifying those things. What are your strengths when it comes to dealing with your sobriety? What are your weaknesses? What brings you to drink or use, right? Might be an individual. You might have to cut them out of your life. It might be a situation, a person, place, thing, thought, an emotion, right? What opportunities are out there? Are there AA meetings in your area you can go to? They have 24-hour AA meetings. So even if you work nights or you work during the days, there's a meeting for you somewhere. Okay, there's an opportunity for you to connect with people that will help you and support you in your sobriety. What are the threats to your sobriety? And how do you deal with them? All right, that's how you SWOT yourself, right? And so that's how you can get into yourself, looking at yourself, not the 6 strengths, weaknesses of other people, opportunity, threats for others. Oh, this may help such and such. No, you get into yourself. All right. And then get on with yourself. Get your plan together, move forward. All right. If you're thinking about walking a life of sobriety, get on with it. Don't sit on the consideration side all day. At some point, you got to go. You may not have all the answers, but living a life of sobriety is an active thing. You have to act on it. All right. So at some point, it's time to get on with yourself and it's time to grow. Once you've sat with your truth and made peace with it, and I'm real big on that, making peace with your relapse, making peace with your mistakes. How do you do that? Sit down with it. That mistake is not your enemy. It's there to teach you something. Okay? That pain that you've inflicted on yourself in addiction is there to teach you something. So learn from it, make peace, and then move on. All right? Getting on with yourself, establishing your goals for your life, seeking purpose for your life, right? Making amends with those you have wronged. Making amends with yourself, making amends with your body by focusing on your health and what you put in it, making amends with your mind through meditation, right? Through forgiveness and through knowledge and learning. You can make amends with yourself, make amends with others for the mistakes that you have made, right? In the past. These are all ways that you can help get on with yourself in sobriety. All right. So in conclusion, that's just kind of what I wanted to give you guys. When we talk about relapse, we talk about resurrection, and we talk about redemption. How can you redeem your sobriety? And even if you haven't relapsed, this is, hopefully these are some things that you can consider, because every day the price we do pay for our sobriety is mindfulness every day. So every tool that we can get, no matter how many days sober I am or years sober I am, I'm always looking for new tools to help sustain and maintain it, right? So these are things hopefully that can pour into you. If you think that any of the things I've discussed today can pour into others, please feel free to share. Please feel free to comment. If you're on YouTube, or even if you aren't, go to the YouTube channel, do me a favor and just like all the videos. I'm not asking for any money or anything like that, but the likes will help get me up there in the algorithm or whatnot. So, hey, if you're so inclined, I would appreciate it. I got plenty of videos up there. You could just spend some time, like about 5 of them. Why not 10 of them? Why not? Go on and like them bad boys. All right. Got some shorts out there. You can check me out on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'm on Facebook, all things Sobriety in Black, TikTok, IG, everywhere. Make sure you join me on all of the platforms. All right. And if you know anybody else that may need some help or they could use some of this information, go ahead and pass it on to them. For those that are interested in purchasing my book, you can purchase it on Amazon. All you got to do is search Sobriety in Black and you're going to see that bad boy pop up. All right. Or you can go to www.sobrietyinblack.com. Like I said, Sobriety in Black, you can't miss it. If you're looking for it, you can find it. I hope, and I do hope that the information in the book pours into you. I've gotten a lot of good reviews and responses from it. And it's really just part of my story. The first half is me talking about my story and my life in alcoholism. The second half is my process with there's some of the concepts I brought up here, my process for, attaining and maintaining my sobriety and what I help others in my recovery coaching process practice do. So I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your resurrection holiday. All right. Remember the reason. Remember, whether you're thinking about sobriety or you relapsed yesterday, today, or 5 minutes ago, you are afforded and you are granted the superpower of redemption and redeeming your sobriety, resurrecting it, and moving on with a better, happier, more meaningful life. All right. So I hope that pours into you. I hope you guys have a great day. Okay. Like I always say, until next time, peace.